Welcome back to Whispered Firelight Stories. The fire's low, the air's cold, and the ocean feels close. Tonight, the Maris Celene.
They found her drifting in January of 1914, a black-hulled liner with a white stripe and one red funnel, riding calm water beneath a sky the color of old pewter. Her decks were tidy, her dining saloon set for breakfast, her cabins made as if for inspection, and not a soul aboard, except for one. A Norwegian freighter, Torgout, was the one that came alongside. Her captain sent men over the rail and onto a ship that should have been alive with bells and footsteps. They walked her length in a silence that pressed like deep water. On the bridge, the wheel properly set, the chart table laid out, the compass steady. Below, trunks closed, beds turned down, napkins folded to points. Everywhere, order without people. They found only one living thing. A boy of 7 in the captain's cabin, Peter Markham, curled small on the bunk with a wooden horse in his fist. He breathed. He shook. He would not speak, not at first. Now. That's how the newspapers told it. But this is how the sailors tell it by the stove in winter, and how I heard it round a fire like this one. In the winter of 1914, the ocean carried promise and dread. Steamliners had made the Atlantic feel smaller. Only 2 years earlier, the unsinkable had sunk, and everyone remembered. The Maris Celene wasn't grand. She was steady. Boston to the northern ports, Denmark and Norway mostly. The rich didn't favor her. Families did. Students, merchants. Sailors on the Boston docks had a different name for her, the widow's ship. No reason anyone could prove, just a feeling that clung like damp. January 8th, 1914. A gray morning in a harbor rimmed with ice. Roughly 130 souls came up the gangway, 80 passengers, 50 crew. Captain Markham at the helm, a precise man, a steady one. His logbooks neat, his crossings many. His wife, Isabel, often sailed with him. Not this time. She told him she felt a chill she could not name. He kissed her hand. She watched him go. Among the passengers, a Boston industrialist and his fashionable wife, a Danish violinist returning home, a schoolteacher and her nervous niece, an Irish priest who paced the deck in silence, and a scatter of young men not yet ready for the lives waiting on shore. And there was Peter, 7 years old, small, quick, the captain's son, always racing to the rail to measure himself against the sea. The crew loved him for it. He reminded them of home. Bells rolled over the water when Maris Celene eased from the wharf. Seagulls wheeled, cried, and one by one turned back toward the city. Not a single bird followed her into the harbor mouth. The sailors noticed. Some muttered a prayer, some spat for luck. Gulls are meant to follow ships, always. There's a thing folks say now, and maybe it's true. As the ship slipped into fog, a violin bled a slow dirge across the water. No musician was scheduled on deck that morning. 2 weeks later, in a patch of winter calm, Torgout sighted a liner adrift. Maris Celene on her bow, no smoke from the funnel, no signals run up her halyards, no faces at the rail. The boarding party crossed. Silence met them like a wall. On the bridge, everything in place. In the saloon, silver gleamed under gray light, and in the captain's cabin, a boy, Peter, alive. They carried him back to Torgout. For a long time he stared into corners where nobody else found anything at all. Then in scraps and whispers he spoke to the first officer, the one kind to him before. He said at night he heard voices in the corridors, not singing, not talking as sailors do, just whispering like breath behind a door. He said he once saw a man stand at the rail in old-fashioned clothes and watch the sea. When he tugged his father's sleeve and pointed, the man was gone. He said after sunset, he saw shapes walking on the water, keeping pace with the ship. He tugged and begged the officer to look. When the officer looked, the ocean was empty. And then he told them about the last morning. He slept in the small bunk beside his father's desk. Captain Markham tucked him in, wrote a few lines in the logbook, doused the lamp. The ship creaked and settled around them like an old house going to sleep. When Peter woke, the lamp still smoked faintly, and the ink in his father's pen had dried. The cabin was empty. His father gone, the officers gone, every passenger, every sailor, gone. He called. He walked the corridors. Every space held the shape of people, and not a single voice answered. "The ship doesn't want us here," he said later, knuckles white around his wooden horse. "It wants to be empty." Officials would later file their tidy words: machinery sound, stores sufficient, hull undamaged, no evidence of piracy, mutiny, or natural disaster, cause unknown. Doctors called the stranger parts the imagination of a child. Papers sold editions with headlines that bellowed and bled, and still all that order stayed fixed against all that absence. They towed Maris Celene to port. Crowds gathered like crows on a fence. People want to see a miracle. They'll also pay to see a wound that refuses to close. The company moved fast. A ship can be seaworthy and still be ruined by a name. She was sold for scrap, unmade plank by plank until there was nothing left to point at. Better erased than allowed to haunt the ledger. Peter remained in Norway until a ship from Boston brought his mother, Isabel Markham. She had refused the original voyage out of fear. Now she crossed the same water to pick up what the sea had dropped. Their reunion was quiet and private. Some say she fell to her knees and gathered the boy up. Some say he whispered mother over and over. Others say he only stared past her shoulder, as if something still stood there watching. He grew up. Folks argue about what he said in his later years. Some claim he never spoke of it again. Others swear that even in old age he would murmur, "I woke and they were gone." Sailors kept the rest alive. They called her the widow's ship, and when a deck went strangely still or a bell rang off watch, someone would say, "Celine's passing," and everyone would go quiet for a while. Writers did what writers do. They turned absence into story. Every few years the tale rose again, clothed in new details. The violin at departure, the pale man at the rail, the log breaking off midline. Facts blurred with fable the way fog blurs a horizon, until you can't say where one ends and the other begins. You want an ending. People always do. The Titanic roared and split and left graves you can point to. The Maris Celene did none of that. She ended in stillness. A script torn in half. A story that leaves the reader staring at a blank page that will not finish itself. Here's what I know. The ocean doesn't always roar when it takes. Sometimes it gathers in silence, and what it leaves behind is not wreckage, but rooms that remember how to be ready. If you ever find yourself near the docks at night, and you hear cutlery clink in an empty saloon, or a child breathing softly behind a closed cabin door, keep walking. Do not open it. Do not call a name. Some ships like to be empty, and some silences are eternal.
That was the Maris Celene. If the fire's still warm where you are, stay a little longer. For more nights like this, hit like, subscribe, and come back to the circle. There are always more stories waiting in the dark, here at Whispered Firelight Stories.